What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the teams most likely to make a trade for Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. All that and much more coming your way right now! All right, Nick, we learned earlier on Monday that Deshaun Watson not only plans on coming to Houston Texans training camp, but he also plans on still being traded and demanding his trade. Now, the Houston Texans have kind of shifted their focus a bit. It used to be, we're not listening to trade offers. We are going to continue to focus on keeping Deshaun Watson in-house and working around him. Now they've kind of changed their tune a bit, and now they're saying that they are listening to trade offers, and they have said that they are looking for a mix of Pro Bowl caliber players and draft picks that are totaling at least 5 separate entities, meaning that 3 first-round picks and 2 all-star caliber players, 4 picks and 1 player, whatever. It's got to be at minimum 5 pieces. So that left us thinking, well, there's pretty much a shortage of teams that have that sort of space and or just that amount of capital to go out and get him. So I took a look at some of what Twitter was saying, what some of the experts were saying, and I came across a verified source on Twitter who said that he had heard that there were several teams still interested in Deshaun Watson, even knowing what the price was to get him. And those teams were the Denver Broncos, the Carolina Panthers, the Miami Dolphins, the New Orleans Saints, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the New England Patriots. Based on all of these teams, based on everything that we have heard about, it seems like we have to really figure out which teams are for real and which ones are kind of just poking around to see if they could get something done. And I think it's also important to note that the Texans are in an interesting spot because they don't really know if Watson's going to be able to play this season. He's still facing 22 civil lawsuits for sexual assault and misconduct, on top of the fact that earlier on Monday, we also got told that he is now facing 10 criminal suits for sexual misconduct and assault, and 2 of those 10 women did not file civil suits, meaning that they are 2 additional women, bringing his total to 24 different cases. So taking a look at all of that, Roger Goodell is obviously going to make his presence known as he does in these sort of situations. I take a look at the demand, and I have to say, I can't really imagine that there's a trade that's super imminent without a team knowing what they're going to be walking into. But putting that aside, let's take a look at the teams that I talked about before and saying, what teams do we believe are the best opportunity to grab Deshaun Watson in a trade?
Well, when I look at the list of teams that you named that are potentially still interested in a Deshaun Watson trade, I'm going back to the teams that were most linked to him before everything broke, and that was the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. But more specifically, the Denver Broncos are the team that were very linked to him. They were very close to making a deal for Deshaun Watson, and they were throwing everything, the kitchen sink and then some, at the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson. I still think that they're willing to make a very similar trade, and it's going to require a lot of their defensive capital. Guys like Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, guys they just got like Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby, these guys that are pivotal pieces of this defense. They're going to come at a cost. They're going to be big trade pieces for the Houston Texans to get Deshaun Watson, because the Houston Texans have a lot of holes that they need to fill, and it's going to have to come through Deshaun Watson. It's the last main piece left on this team that is actually worth value. And in order to get the most out of him, you need to fill a lot of the holes that are on this team, and a lot of them are on the defensive side of the ball. So making a trade with the Denver Broncos is great for both sides. The Houston Texans get a revamped defense. The Denver Broncos get Deshaun Watson and they get rid of this quarterback competition with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock, they don't need to worry about who QB1 is for them moving forward. They don't need to worry about QB1 being a guy they need to mold into the franchise quarterback. They're getting a guy who's already molded into that shape, and he's getting better weapons, a better offensive line, better running backs than he's ever had. So he's going to be in a much better situation, and he's going to be performing even better. So the Denver Broncos are losing some defensive pieces, but their offense is getting much stronger, and it's going to be much more consistent output from the offense as well. So when you look at it, it's really a both wins by both teams. And honestly, I think this trade makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Denver Broncos are first and foremost in most people's heads and thinking that Deshaun Watson could end up going to the Mile High City. However, I believe that there's another team that's kind of lurking in the shadows, and fittingly enough, that's kind of where they blend in, as the Las Vegas Raiders could easily make a trade for this man. I'm talking about John Gruden and Mike Mayock teaming up to go get a guy that John Gruden absolutely loved when he was at ESPN. I mean, he gushed over this guy when he had him in his Gruden QB camp. He had this guy talking all sorts of football. He said this is one of the most fun quarterbacks he ever had the ability to talk with and coach with. And just taking a look at him for that short amount of time, I think sold John Gruden on the fact that if he is available, the Raiders need to go out and get him. And I know Mike Mayock. I remember listening to his analysis of Deshaun Watson while he was with ESPN at that time, and listening to how he talked about Deshaun Watson. I know that he would give up everything that they could possibly give to go get him, especially since we saw him willing to trade the entire franchise away in his first season there. I believe that Deshaun Watson makes a ton of sense. So you're taking a look at some of the players that they currently have. I would assume that a lot of these defensive guys might end up being included when you're talking about the Yannick Ngakwe's of the world, the Cleveland Farrells of the world, talking about some of the defensive backs that they have to offer, maybe some of the wide receivers that they've recently acquired. They can add them on top of the fact that Derek Carr will be part of that mix. Derek Carr, who is a solid starting quarterback, would be included in that mix on top of draft picks, of course. So I think that's kind of what you're looking for if the Raiders were to make a move here. But I believe that the Raiders are fully in this mix, and they would do anything they can to beat out their division rival Broncos for Deshaun Watson.
I had mentioned that another team with the Broncos was looking to trade for Deshaun Watson, that being the Miami Dolphins. They were another team that was heavily linked to Deshaun Watson earlier this year. And I fully expect them to be right back there because this team really has not changed. Besides adding Jalen Waddle and Will Fuller to this team, they can get Deshaun Watson and pair him back with Will Fuller, but give him more weapons, a better offensive line. I mean, honestly, that's going to be the case with wherever he goes, honestly. But the Texans can then in return get guys like Tua Tagovailoa and get Xavier Howard, who is a top 5 corner in the NFL. They can get pieces like this along with future first round picks. And we all know the Miami Dolphins have been accumulating pick after pick in every trade they've made over the last few years. They have a lot of first round picks that they can deal to the Houston Texans. So I think that the Houston Texans and the Miami Dolphins can really make a strong trade together, and the Houston Texans can get a franchise quarterback into start remolding that defense with Xavier Howard there, and then maybe get a couple other pieces in there, get some other players in there in the trade, or just use the draft capital they'll get from the Miami Dolphins as well. But putting Deshaun Watson on the Miami Dolphins, it doesn't just make them instant playoff team. That makes them Super Bowl contenders. Under Brian Flores, this is a very strongly run team. And I think with Deshaun Watson at the helm, you can erase the offensive side. Like, you know, that's taken care of by Deshaun Watson. Brian Flores can now solely focus on the defense, and he's a defensive mind after all. He comes from the Bill Belichick coaching tree. He's going to get this defense right, as he has been doing, getting them stronger each and every year he's been with the Miami Dolphins. So they would be instant Super Bowl contenders in my book. And I think that Deshaun Watson would absolutely thrive in Miami.
Absolutely. And I think that the Miami Dolphins are licking their chops anytime the Houston Texans call, because if you recall the last couple of trades that they made, the Dolphins made out pretty damn well. Even though that was Bill O'Brien, still, they like on the Texans. they like when the Texans call their number. So, taking a look at other teams that we have available, I'm also taking a look at one team in particular that's used to having a top tier quarterback, that being the New Orleans Saints. I think the New Orleans Saints, now without Drew Brees for the first time, they are in QB limbo as they have Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill to choose from. And with all due respect, I don't think that's the choice that you want to be making, especially for a franchise quarterback moving forward. But if you had the opportunity to essentially, I don't know, get Deshaun Watson for 4 draft picks and one player, now we're talking. You don't need much more on this team. You have Alvin Kamara. You have Michael Thomas. You have a decent offensive line. On top of the fact that your defense just needs a couple players here and there. And when you get Deshaun Watson in there, this thing is going to blow up. You are adding a completely new dimension that Drew Brees never had, and that's the ability to run the ball from the pocket. So I think Deshaun Watson would really fit well. And Sean Payton, giving him a mobile quarterback, I mean, I can only imagine what this man can scheme up. We're talking about different types of levels and RPOs and triple options, whatever the case is. I think he's going to be playing Madden while everybody else is trying to scramble to figure out what the hell is going on. So at the end of the day, I think Deshaun Watson could end up seriously being a New Orleans Saint, and the Houston Texans not only get to shed themselves at Deshaun Watson, get what they want in return, but they ship him to the NFC as well, where they don't have to see him all but, what, every 4 years?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, finally, I want to talk about the remainder of the teams because honestly, to me, none of them make sense for Deshaun Watson, for the Houston Texans, or for these teams. When we look at the Carolina Panthers, they were in on Deshaun Watson before they made the move for Sam Darnold. Now that they've acquired Sam Darnold, he's already getting used to the system. Matt Rule's working with him. I don't think that they are going to pivot their stance once again and then move to Deshaun Watson just to reset once again. They've already found their next franchise guy, the guy they believe in, and I just don't think that they are truly in the running, especially at the price the Houston Texans are asking for. When I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, to me, it just comes down to they don't have enough assets to actually trade that are worthwhile for the Houston Texans. You might try to trade him Jalen Hurts, but that's not a big trade piece. Jalen Reagor, that would be too big of a loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think he would be involved in the trade. Darius Slay, you just paid him a massive amount of money. I don't think he'd be a part of the deal unless you want to completely redo this defense once again. The Philadelphia Eagles have very few pieces to actually work with, and they'd be giving up a lot of draft capital, which they need to get this roster in the right place. And I just don't think the Houston Texans are willing to accept anything less than these top players or all of their draft picks over the next few years. And the Philadelphia Eagles are just not going to give into a trade like that for Deshaun Watson because what can you do with a quarterback and no other roster? You have 22 starters, and you need to make sure the majority of those starting positions are filled with top-level talent to compete in your division and the rest of the NFL. So, to me, this really doesn't make sense. And then finally, the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots have already made the move in the draft to get Mac Jones, and then they moved to sign all these free agents in the offseason, bringing their cap down. And Bill Belichick has never been one to give a quarterback a long-term deal. Deshaun Watson's already signed that long-term deal, and I don't know if Bill Belichick is ready to hand out that amount of money to Deshaun Watson just yet. The other thing is the ethical standpoint, and Robert Kraft is not an owner that takes a lot from players. He does not give into a lot, and that's why guys like Antonio Brown did not last long on the Patriots roster. With Deshaun Watson having this lingering in the background, this whole scandal lingering behind with him, I just don't think that there's a way the Patriots make a move for him. Robert Kraft is not going to sign off on a trade that will send away a lot of the Patriots' top players and top draft picks to get a guy that has a background that Robert Kraft does not approve of. And I just don't think that Deshaun Watson is in the right state to be a New England Patriot. He has too much baggage attached to him, and it's just not what Bill Belichick or Robert Kraft are looking for, especially during this rebuild.
Knowing how Robert Kraft likes to run this team, and he always takes every approach to every situation as what would Myra do, his late wife, he would say that, you know, she would not approve of bringing somebody like Deshaun Watson. onto this roster, at least until everything is situated. Because if he's found innocent, or if he, if there's no guilt found upon him, then the conversation is open to everyone. Right now there's no cloud looming over his head. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. And again, as we talk about in all of these situations, we both truly believe that. But when you talk about some of these teams trying to make a move, they're going to be hesitant to give up 5 major pieces, including future draft picks, for a guy that who knows if or when he'll be able to play again. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's facing not only civil charges, but now 10 criminal charges. And that has changed the ball game completely. I think that is just another layer that we were just kind of hoping never really showed up, and all of a sudden here it is. The day that Deshaun Watson announces that he's going to be coming to camp is the day that they announce that there is 10 criminal lawsuits now at his doorstep. So a lot here to watch and unpack, but we're going to be here throughout it. So be sure to tune into our channel for all the latest updates and everything that you need to know about this situation. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.